Well, an early morning development in the latest move for Canada fighting back against U.S. tariffs has our country requesting World Trade Organization consultations with the U.S. over what they have filed as unjustified tariffs. Here's the Prime Minister yesterday.
Canadians are reasonable and we are polite, but we will not back down from a fight. Not when our country and the well-being of everyone in it is at stake.
The Prime Minister is also saying he's going to challenge the tariffs through CUSMA and says analysts say Canada has a legal case here. So for more on the implications, we're joined this morning by Mark Warner, international trade expert and lawyer, and a common guest on the show. Good morning to you.
Morning.
I want to start with this move that just happened this morning. This is a statement from the World Trade Organization's Canadian ambassador saying on Wednesday, the U.S. decision leaves us no choice but to respond to protect Canadian interests. And a WTO spokesperson confirmed they have received Canada's request for these consultations. What will these consultations prove? What does this move mean?
So within the WTO dispute settlement system, the first step is to request the consultations with the party who has a measure that you disagree with. So in this case, the United States. And in some cases, that's perfunctory, and so it basically goes nowhere. And then that automatically leads to the establishment of a dispute settlement panel. And then basically over a period of time, a decision actually comes, and which can be appealed to an appellate body. So which makes sense. The problem, I guess, in this case is the appellate body has been stalled since the time of Obama because Americans haven't been appointing judges to it. And so even if you get a decision out of the WTO panel that's favorable to you, it goes nowhere. So it's a best Pyrrhic victory if you win against the United States.
So then, if I understand correctly, this is part of our, when we say we're going to fight back with everything we have, this is just one of the options. It may not change anything, definitely not in the short term, but we are exhausting all avenues. Is that correct?
Exhausting all our avenues, and there may be some advantages. I say if you get a panel decision that's favorable to you, that even though it will not go anywhere because there's no appellate body, it'll be what they call appealed into the void if the United States loses. So that's some moral victory, I suppose. The real reason for going to the WTO, I think, is that the CUSMA agreement basically makes you have to make a choice. Either you go through the dispute settlement system in the CUSMA or the WTO. And so, the national security defense that the United States will muster for this stuff will basically be very weak under the CUSMA terms, because it's basically acknowledges that it's self-judging. So if the United States thinks its essential security interests are affected, that's pretty much the end of the story under CUSMA. And the national security exemption is broader under the WTO rules, so potentially we're more likely to get a more favorable ruling from a panel, and there in fact are some panels that have ruled on these topics, although they've been appealed into the void and so have gone nowhere.
We just put up, one of the rules, for lack of a better word, around these trade rules around CUSMA, or the USMCA, as they call it, south of the border. Are these a violation of CUSMA? Like, do we have a legal leg to stand on? Or does it fall under this sort of middle path that President Trump seems to have carved, which is that there are exemptions, and he's using border security and fentanyl crisis as the exemptions?
Yeah, I think that's the way to look at it. They would be a clear, unilaterally raising tariffs would violate the terms of the agreement, although the agreement itself provides an exception. And as I said, in the CUSMA, it's self-judging when a party invokes it. And at least that's the American position. There are Canadian lawyers I know out there. You may talk to some who will tell you that even though it says it's self-judging, it doesn't really mean self-judging. But good luck with that. I think that would be a very hard case for Canada to win at the CUSMA level. As I said, it's more likely that they would succeed on a national security type argument at the WTO, although, as I said again, it goes nowhere because it's appealed into the void.
Yeah, so I guess people are wondering, does Canada have a legal leg to stand on if this is breaking of CUSMA? And if it was supposed to be renegotiated next year anyway, have we just accelerated the timeline? Or not we, I guess, President Trump.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, and maybe one of the things we should do is an off-ramp here is to offer to expedite that review and to sort of move away from the tariff fight. There's a real pragmatic reason here. The Congress in the United States is the party, the body of government, the arm of government that sets tariffs. The president gets into setting tariffs when it's delegated authority from Congress, or when it's inches into the area of national security. So Canada is never going to ever see, in my view, Trump get rid of things like fentanyl or the border completely, because he needs that not just for Canada but for the other countries, because he's going to use this national security pretext for all that he wants to do on tariffs. Yeah. So I think part of our strategy has to be acknowledging that, because if Canada wants to stand up for the whole world to bring him down and prove that he can't use national security, I just don't think that's a winning battle, but we can try.
Well, I want to ask you about these reciprocal tariffs. So Trump has promised to impose them on Canadian goods. He reiterated it in his speech last night. It's coming in April 2nd. This is in response to our tariffs. Does he have the right to do that?
Well, that's the problem with this. Historically, the position of Canada has always been that we believe in the rules-based international order. And so that means that we go through the WTO processes or the CUSMA processes. We don't act unilaterally. And the last time Trump was in power, when Chrystia Freeland was, I guess, I can't remember what now, foreign minister, I guess, when the steel and aluminum tariffs came up, she used a feature of our law, that Section 53 of the customs tariff, to basically act unilaterally. Now, once you start acting unilaterally, it's hard to come back around and turn around and say, well, we believe in multilateralism. So people will say that you have to act quickly because the risks are so great. So yes, we will have an argument there, but just the Americans will also have an argument that our unilateral retaliation violates the terms of the CUSMA. And I guess then the argument will go, well, we're doing it because of national security. And then the Americans will say, aha, you like national security now, do you? So, we're outside of the rules at this point, and Trump has taken us outside of the rules, and maybe we just have to acknowledge that's where we are.
Yeah, that is hard to do when you're sitting with 25% tariffs and looking at possibly 50 a month and so for now. Mark Warner, international trade expert and lawyer, great to have you here this morning. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.